Story 1. The Disappeared Passenger. Creaking slowly, an old train moves along a foggy railroad track that pierces the desolate landscape. The carriage containing the only passenger seems completely empty except for him. A man sits in a chair by the window, watching the endless fields beyond the glass. Periodically, the train slows down, as if moving through eternal darkness, and this feeling of uncertainty does not leave him. He had long since gotten used to the solitude. The train never stopped in cities, and every time he looked up, he saw empty rows of seats all around him. But suddenly, in one of these moments, he notices someone sitting across from his seat. The man is dressed in old, shabby clothes, his face hidden by the shadow of a hat, but his eyes gleam because of the incomprehensible light that comes from inside the train. The strangeness doesn't go away, but the man decides to ignore it. He returns to his observation of the window, but after a few minutes he notices that the figure on the opposite side of the seat has disappeared. The feeling of uneasiness increases. Suddenly, the train makes a sudden jerk, and the man loses his balance. When he gets up again, he finds that everything around him has become even stranger. The passenger has disappeared, but his shadow on the seat remains. He decides to go to another car, but once there, he realizes that the whole train is empty. Every carriage is empty, but somewhere in the distance, in the last seat, he sees him. A passenger. The creaking sound of the wheels grows louder as the train suddenly slows down. The strange light coming from the window and the deafening clatter create an atmosphere of terror. The man stares again into the empty space. The passenger has disappeared, but now he realizes the train will never reach its destination. Story 2. An unexpected guest. It was quiet at home, and everything seemed normal. One evening, when night had fallen and all the windows were closed, a man came home looking for some privacy after a long day at work. At the threshold, he noticed someone's figure. Someone was sitting at his door. It was a man dressed in strange clothes, with an expression as if he had been sitting in one place for too long. He stood motionless, and it wasn't immediately clear who the man was. The man stopped for a moment, analyzing the situation, but then, not knowing what to do, went inside. He realized that he could not simply ignore the presence of this stranger. But to his surprise, when he got closer, the guest didn't make a single move. Walking to the door, he opened it and looked back. The figure continued to sit on the threshold without uttering a word. The house was dark, and it intensely felt like a threat he couldn't understand. Who could this man be? Why hadn't he left? But as soon as he got back inside, he sensed that something was wrong. The sense of unease became more and more apparent, and the man made the decision to go out and check. However, when he went to the door again, the man was gone. His footprints had disappeared, as if he had vanished into thin air. A few days later, he notices that strange things have begun to happen in the house. Doors begin to creak, and things move by themselves. He realizes that his unexpected guest was no mere wanderer. He was something much more sinister. Story 3. Nightmare at an abandoned farmhouse. The fog over the abandoned farm shrouded everything around it, as if covering it with a misty blanket. A man, determined to find solitude, traveled to this secluded corner, hoping to take a break from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. The farm looked abandoned. The windows were sealed shut, and the doors were boarded up. However, his intuition told him that all was not so simple here. It was dark and damp inside. There were old things covered in dust everywhere, and the air was filled with the smell of rotting wood and mustiness. He began to look around the farmhouse, listening to every sound, but the farther he went, the weirder everything around him became. Suddenly, in one of the rooms, he noticed footprints left by someone who had obviously been here recently. Puddles of water, strange footprints, and an open door that had been closed before. He decided to follow them, but each step made him feel more and more uneasy. As he entered the basement, where there was clearly something hidden, strange sounds filled the room. Footsteps, a lingering rustle, as if someone else was there. Trying to calm himself, he continued to move forward. Suddenly, in the dim light of the flashlight, he saw something that made him shiver. There were strange symbols scrawled on the walls and fresh footprints on the floor. This wasn't just an abandoned place. This was a place where someone was hiding. But now he realized that it was too late to hide.